Suffer with PMS, irregular painful periods, difficulty losing weight, acne, or any other period-related problem, I'm going to take a good guess and say you're pretty tired. Actually, scratch that. Pretty tired probably doesn't do it justice. You are exhausted. It's Sarah here from Sarah Go Nutrition, and this week we're talking all about energy. So I bet life feels quite overwhelming right now. Some days you have no idea how you make it through the day and accomplish everything you do. It's like you put your superwoman pants on and away you go without much connection or enthusiasm for the tasks you have to do that day, before crumpling on the sofa at the end of the day and crawling into bed by 9 o'clock. And this is just your life on repeat. Now you might be thinking, what does low energy have in common with period problems? And I'm not psychic. Firstly, every woman I see in clinic, energy is a problem. So I do have a slight advantage there. But secondly, fatigue is actually a hallmark of something going on with your hormones. So the endocrine system, which controls your hormones, also controls your energy production as well. So if the endocrine system isn't working well, your energy production isn't going to be working well either. So what impacts your energy? Number one, blood sugar. So too many carbohydrates, sugar, caffeine or alcohol can take us on the blood sugar roller coaster, which means our blood sugar levels go up and down and swing from high and low repeatedly all day. So low blood sugar can make us feel hungry, sluggish, tired and pretty rotten really. It can also cause us to wake up in the early hours, which impacts the quality and quantity of our sleep. So consuming too many of the foods mentioned above really impacts our energy levels in another way too, because when we ingest too many of these foods, it spikes our insulin levels, which is the hormone that deals with blood sugar levels. And too much glucose and too much insulin can actually prevent ovulation, which limits then the amount of progesterone produced, because actually to produce your progesterone you need to ovulate. And this can lead to estrogen dominance, which is also a factor in fatigue as well. Number two, melatonin production. So melatonin is the hormone produced in response to darkness. So it's our sleep hormone, and it can help us make us feel sleepy at night and improve the quality of our sleep. So as the sun goes down, our melatonin levels should rise. However, the sun doesn't really go down anymore because we put on, maybe the sun goes down outside, but then we put on our artificial lighting or on our screens. And it means that actually the artificial light exposure means that we don't ever get, unless we really work at it, we don't get sufficient melatonin production, which impacts the quality of our sleep. And we all know how crappy we feel after an awful night's sleep. Number three, stress and cortisol. So consider cortisol the yin to melatonin's yang. So whilst melatonin peaks at night in response to darkness, cortisol peaks in the morning in response to lightness. So it helps us get out of bed and be motivated for our day. But the issue comes is when we have too much cortisol and it's overstimulated throughout the day constantly. So cortisol is part of our stress response, which is part of the survival mechanism when we perceive a threat. And this used to be in the form of maybe, I don't know, a saber-toothed tiger, if you think of a caveman around the campfire. But now we actually have lots of baby tigers running all over the place. So things like angry bosses, screaming children, constant notifications, a long to-do list. And too much cortisol production can put strain on the adrenal glands, which actually suppresses our energy and can result in things like brain fog and a lower mood also. Number four, lower nutrient status. So we often consider things like vitamin B12 and iron related to fatigue, and we might have had those tested at the doctor if we've gone to them and said, I feel tired, what's wrong with me? But there's actually many other micronutrients which are involved in energy production as well. So things like actually all the B vitamins, magnesium, vitamin D and zinc are all really important for ample energy. Number five, toxins and environmental chemicals. So increased exposure to chemicals in our environment puts an added strain on the liver. And it requires an enormous amount of energy for the liver to function anyway. So actually if you put more strain on the liver, that's going to take up more energy and divert energy away from other processes in the body. So it actually pulls the energy in, which can make you feel tired, because we need the liver to detoxify to keep us well and to keep us alive. Number six, low thyroid function. So the thyroid gland can be viewed as like your body's motor, much like an engine in a car. And without the engine, or the engine ticking over nicely, the car cannot move. And we are the same. So an underfunctioning thyroid gland can cause the body to slow down, which is often associated with low energy, difficulty losing weight, as well as things like constipation and low mood. So those are the contributing factors to low energy. Now the most important part, what can we do to boost our energy levels naturally? And no, it's not drink some more coffee. So number one is to address your light exposure. So we want to encourage the production of cortisol in the morning and melatonin at night. And light is just a brilliant way to do this. And we don't really take advantage of this enough, in my opinion, in our modern day life. So increase your natural light exposure before noon as much as possible. So get out in the morning, even if it's cloudy, for a walk. Avoid wearing things like sunglasses, and consider getting a light box for really gloomy winter mornings. And then in the evening, we want to suppress that light production from noon onwards. So maybe things like dimming your lights, using things like blue light blocking glasses, and just actually really conscious to turn off all your screens and electronic devices, ideally 1 to 2 hours before bedtime. But if that's not possible, as much as you can reduce your exposure close to bedtime is going to be a good thing. Number 2, manage stress. So prioritize self-care and activities that lower that stress load, so really suppress that cortisol down. So even just 5 or 10 minutes a day can make a really big impact on your stress levels and energy levels. It doesn't have to be complicated. It could be simple as a few stretches in the morning, getting out for a walk, and reading a book in the evenings. Number 3 is exercise, and this comes with a few caveats. So firstly, if you find exercise or the type of exercise you're currently doing depletes you and you don't find you are energized afterwards, then actually maybe consider doing a lower impact type of exercise, such as walking, or do it for a shorter period of time. And also with exercise, that is too much of a good thing. So if you are over-exercising, that can actually have the opposite effect, and it can create more stress in the body, spike that cortisol, depleting you further. However, that said, getting the heart pumping and enjoying regular exercise has been shown in the research to help reduce fatigue. So try to make exercise or movement part of your daily habit. It could be really small, such as doing 60 seconds of, squats, mountain climbers, burpees, sit-ups while the kettle boils. You can easily get that in, or watching an ad during an ad break when you're watching TV. Or it can be more of a lengthy workout schedule, such as going to a gym class or cycle ride. It doesn't really matter what you do, as long as you enjoy it and it energizes you and you get it in every single day. Number 4 is looking to detox, so taking some of the load off the liver and the gut, and reduce your exposure to toxins and environmental chemicals as much as possible. So the best way to do this is to opt for organic produce, make sure you drink filtered water, reduce your plastic exposure, and also become a toxin detective when it comes to your beauty and cleaning products. How can you use your diet to manage your energy? So we've gone through some lifestyle stuff. Let's look at the diet. So number 1, I'm really sorry for this, put down the coffee. So caffeine, coffee, tea, it's the caffeine that raises your cortisol levels, which puts an additional strain on the adrenal glands. It can also deplete micronutrients, so there really isn't that much to be celebrated here in terms of energy levels. We often think that caffeine gives us a spike in energy, and it might make us feel a little bit more energized, but actually often it gives us that slump in the afternoon and reduce our overall energy levels. So trust me, when you get off the caffeine, you will feel a lot more energized. It just might take you a few days to adjust. Number 2 is to eat a really nutrient-dense breakfast. So breakfast really sets the tone for the rest of the day in terms of our blood sugar levels. So consume a nutrient-dense breakfast that includes things like good quality protein, healthy fats, and some starchy carbohydrates can really help to keep our levels up and stable throughout the day. Our carbohydrates requirements change throughout the menstrual cycle, so focus on less carbohydrates in the follicular phase and a little more in the luteal phase. Number 3, ramp up on taking micronutrients. So taking a supplement can be a really easy way to ensure you're getting all the nutrients your body needs. However, I do view supplements as just that, a supplement to your diet and not the main event. So eating a broad and varied diet full of lots of colourful plant-based foods is the best way to ramp up your micronutrient status. B vitamins are really the star of the show when it comes to energy production. They're required for pretty much every function in the body, so if you're deficient, you will really feel it. Things like B6 and B12 are particularly important, and whole food sources of those are things like grass-fed beef, eggs, salmon, dark leafy greens for everything, and whole grains as well, a really good way to up your intake. Magnesium is another superhero when it comes to energy. Not only is it great for also dialing down stress and also helping sleep, it is heavily required by something called mitochondria. And these mitochondria are energy-making powerhouses found in every cell, and they help make something called ATP, which is like the body's energy currency. So magnesium-rich foods, dark leafy greens, pumpkin seeds, and 70% plus cacao content in dark chocolate or using cacao powder. And another vital nutrient for mitochondria is vitamin D, and deficiency has been associated with lower energy levels and fatigue. So vitamin D really helps to improve muscle function, which enhances the activity of our mitochondria. The best source of vitamin D is the sun, so make sure you get your levels checked in winter and supplement accordingly. And number 4, last but not least, do not forget about hydration. So the body is made up of mostly water. So any dip in hydration, the body will see as a threat. So it will switch on the stress response, but it will also impact every single function and process in the body. It also impacts the flow of oxygen to the brain, so making the muscles work harder, which can cause you to feel less alert and more fatigued.